Hello, everyone. Tonight, we are wandering through the cool embrace of the Egyptian desert, where the moonlight turns the dunes into rivers of silver and the air is filled with the scent of ancient sand. You're here, shuffling along the banks of the Nile, your sandals whispering across the soft earth, the ancient river murmuring its secrets just a few feet away. There's a chill tonight, and you feel the weight of history pressing in on your shoulders, each breath dusted with the scent of incense and old stone. But before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And while you're at it, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. Now, turn off the lights. Maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You pause, gaze drifting across the black water, catching the glint of a crocodile's eye. Because yes, crocodiles were worshipped here too. The coolness of the night is broken only by the rhythmic croak of frogs and the occasional rustle of a palm frond. You tighten your thin linen cloak around your shoulders and step forward, feeling the ancient path beneath your feet. A crumbling stone archway looms ahead, half swallowed by drifting sands. You step through it, and the air seems to change, carrying the dry, sweet scent of resin and cedar wood. Your lantern flickers, throwing long shadows that dance along the carved hieroglyphs of the entrance. Each symbol seems to pulse with its own silent story, some tales of triumph, others of betrayal. A small, breathy laugh escapes you as you realize that even in death, the Egyptians took their afterlife more seriously than most people take their morning coffee. You pass your hand over a carved figure of Anubis, his jackal's face impassive as ever, and wonder if he'd have been a good barista in another life. The tomb's entrance gapes like an open mouth, and you feel a shiver run down your spine. Even though you know this is all just history, the weight of these walls seems to close in around you, the air thicker, the silence deeper. You take a slow breath, your pulse steady, but your mind racing with the realization that you're about to step into the realm of the dead, a place where pharaohs were kings, and your own soul might be on the line. The glow of your lantern picks out a delicate painting of a woman offering lotus flowers to the gods. The petals are faded, but still graceful, a small reminder that beauty survives even in the afterlife. The woman's face is serene, eyes half-lidded, as if she knows the secret of eternity. And maybe, just maybe, she's not telling. You move deeper into the tomb, and the air cools further, wrapping around you like a comforting shroud. Your footsteps echo against the stones, and you swear you can hear faint whispers, echoes of prayers from priests long turned to dust. You brush away a cobweb, the gossamer thread sticky against your fingers, and think, at least the spiders seem to enjoy the afterlife. A single shaft of moonlight cuts through a crack in the ceiling, illuminating a small statue of Horus. The falcon god watches you with unblinking eyes, and you remember a curious fact historians still debate: whether these statues were purely religious or also served as reminders of the pharaoh's divine authority. Maybe they were both. Who's to say the afterlife didn't need a little political flair? You lean in closer, your breath stirring the dust that settled for centuries. You wonder if you're the first to stand here in hundreds of years, your heartbeat suddenly loud in the silence. It's an odd sort of thrill, a reminder that you're both impossibly small and somehow part of this endless chain of lives and deaths. Somewhere above you, an owl hoots its cry, sharp and eerie in the desert night. You smile, imagining it as a messenger, a sleepy bird tasked with ferrying souls to the afterlife. The idea's a little silly, but somehow it makes this place feel less lonely. A few steps deeper, and you find yourself standing at the threshold of a burial chamber, the scent of old resin thick in the air. A low table holds offering bowls, still stained with the last traces of wine and honey. A half-burnt incense stick lies across the lip of a jar, its tip blackened, like the memories of the long dead. You reach out and run your fingers along the edge of a sarcophagus, the smooth stone cold beneath your fingertips. You take a moment to close your eyes and just listen. The desert outside is so quiet, it's as if time itself is holding its breath. Your pulse slows, your thoughts drift, and you feel the weight of the centuries settle in around you. This is the start of your journey, a journey into a world where death was just another chapter, and every soul hoped for eternity under the watchful eyes of the gods. A flicker of light plays across the golden face of the sarcophagus, and for a heartbeat, you swear it's smiling at you. Or maybe that's just the flickering lamp, and your sleepy mind playing tricks. Either way, you smile back, take another deep breath, and prepare to step deeper into the secrets of the ancient Egyptian afterlife. You shuffle forward past the threshold of the burial chamber, feeling the air grow heavy with the scent of myrrh and the faintest whiff of something older, like the last breath of a story long forgotten. The flickering lantern light picks out scenes on the wall, each stroke of ochre and lapis, a promise of eternal life and cosmic order. You pause, tracing the line of a painted figure who kneels in prayer, her delicate fingers outstretched toward a golden offering. A carved doorway beckons you deeper, and you feel the slight shift in your pulse, a small thrill, the way your heart used to jump when you snuck a cookie before dinner as a kid. Except tonight, you're not in your kitchen. You're in a place where the dead dreamed of feasts that would never end, and even your soft breath seems to echo with ancient laughter. The chamber opens up like a secret, and you find yourself in a room that could swallow your modern apartment twice over. The walls shimmer with faint color, despite the centuries of dust, and your lantern flickers, as if to remind you these walls have seen more than you ever will. A row of small niches hold statues of the gods, each figure silent but watchful. Isis with her wings outstretched, Horus with his falcon head, and Thoth, the ibis-headed scribe, frozen in eternal documentation. You'd think he'd have learned to take a day off. You step closer to the main wall, where the scene of a funeral procession plays out in eternal motion. Priests in leopard skin cloaks pour libations, and women wail with hair disheveled in dramatic fashion. It's oddly theatrical, like a soap opera from 3,000 years ago, only with fewer commercials and a lot more linen. You run your fingers along the painted hieroglyphs, the raised edges still crisp beneath your fingertips, a testament to the artistry of those who believed that to write was to give life. In the center of the chamber, a golden chest sits atop a raised dais, its polished surface catching the light. You take a step closer, drawn in by the shimmering promise of what might lie within. You remember that the chest would have held the canopic jars, each carefully sealed with the image of a god to protect the organs of the deceased. Historians still debate whether this was purely ritualistic, or if they believed the organs would one day be useful again, like keeping your expired milk just in case. You glance around feeling a bit like a museum thief in an old noir film, the hush of the chamber pressing in as you reach out to lift the lid. But of course you don't. You're just here to observe, to honor, and maybe to share a quiet joke with the long-dead souls, who would probably find your flashlight just as magical as their spells. There's a painting of a boat on the Nile, a funerary bark that promises to ferry the soul to the land of reeds and endless sunshine. The river's painted waves curl around the hull, a detail that makes you think of summer afternoons and childhood fishing trips. Funny how the afterlife is never far from the simple pleasures of the living. The ceiling above is a starry sky, deep blue and dotted with gold that still glints like starlight caught in stone. You tilt your head back, letting the illusion of infinity wash over you. You can almost hear the priests chanting their voices low and resonant, a litany of hope and fear winding through the centuries. Your lantern's glow picks out a small clay figure in the corner, a shabti doll, its features worn, but still charming. These little helpers were meant to spring to life in the afterlife to do the work you were too busy, well being dead to do. Imagine if that still worked, no more laundry for you, just a cheerful little doll to do your taxes and fold your socks. You kneel by the figure, brushing away the thin layer of dust that settled in the folds of its tiny kilt. A sweet, almost musty scent of old linen clings to the air. It's a scent that brings to mind second-hand bookstores, the kind of places where you half expect a pharaoh to pop out from behind the stacks and demand to see your library card. You pause to rest, feeling the chill of the stone seep into your knees. Outside, the desert wind howls softly, a lullaby for the weary traveler. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the darkness wrap around you like a soft blanket, and imagine what it would be like to sleep here forever, surrounded by golden charms and painted prayers. But even in the hush of this ancient crypt, there's a small voice of practicality that reminds you you probably wouldn't survive more than an hour without a snack. And the ancient Egyptians, well, they took their banquets very seriously. Bread and beer, honey cakes, and roast duck, all carefully laid out for the soul to feast on. No wonder the afterlife was so appealing. It was basically an endless buffet. As you rise, you notice a small offering table tucked into a niche, a few faded pomegranates, and a jug of what might have been sweet wine sit there dusty but dignified. You imagine the priests carefully placing them the quiet prayer in their breath, that the soul of the departed might find comfort in these simple gifts. You whisper a quiet good night to the painted figures on the wall, to the small shabti, to the soul that once lay in this silent chamber. There's a peace here that's hard to explain, a promise that even in death there is still beauty, still dignity, still a chance to be remembered. And as you turn to leave, your lantern's light winks across the face of a statue, and for a heartbeat, you swear it's nodding in approval. Or maybe it's just the dust in your eyes. Either way, you smile, because you know there are still so many secrets to uncover in the tombs of the ancient dead. You shuffle deeper into the darkness, the tomb narrowing into a low corridor that forces you to duck every few steps. The air smells sharper here, frankincense, and something more acrid like the ghost of old herbs still clinging to the walls. Your lantern sputters a little, casting a weak glow that makes the hieroglyphs seem to dance along the limestone, the figures flickering in and out of shadow. You pause, adjusting your grip on the handle, and lean closer to a painted panel of Anubis presiding over a body stretched out on a low stone slab. The priests are there too, their heads bowed in solemn concentration. Linen aprons, crisp and neat. You can practically hear the scratch of the embalmer's knife, see the careful work that went into turning a mortal body into something ready for eternity. The mummification process was long and deliberate. 40 days of drying the body with natron salts, a technique that might not sound very glamorous, but was surprisingly effective. You watch as they pack the body with resin-soaked linens, each layer infused with the scent of cedar and myrrh, a final luxury for a journey beyond. You think of it like a spa treatment, only with fewer cucumbers on the eyes and more brain hooks. Speaking of brain hooks, you spot a small, twisted piece of bronze displayed on a stone shelf. It glints in the flickering light, a reminder of the more peculiar steps of mummification. The embalmers would insert this through the nose to remove the brain, a process that even now seems more than a little invasive. Historians still debate whether this was purely practical or had some deeper symbolic meaning. Some say the brain was considered useless in the afterlife, a vessel for mortal worries better left behind. You rub your own forehead and can't help a soft chuckle. Yes, brain, huh? Well, maybe that explains some of my high school math grades. You let the thought float away with a sleepy smile, your focus returning to the figure on the slab. The priests work in silence, each movement careful, the air almost vibrating with reverence. You watch as they anoint the skin with oils, the gleam of resin giving the corpse an almost polished glow. You can almost feel the warmth of the oil on your own hands, the weight of it grounding you in the moment. A low stone basin holds a curious concoction. Honey mixed with herbs. A sweet balm meant to soothe both the body and the soul. The smell makes you think of summer afternoons, and honey dripped lazily onto warm bread, and you wonder if the soul drifting above the scene took comfort in those familiar scents. You move around the chamber, peering into the small alcoves where the tools of the embalmers wait. Bronze blades delicate as a surgeon's small cups for the sacred oils, and bundles of linen still faintly fragrant with the memory of the desert sun. There's a beauty here in the practicality, a careful choreography of life and death played out with every cut and every soft prayer. In the corner, you see a small bundle of reeds tied with twine, a primitive broom probably used to sweep away the last grains of natron, or to shoo away the more curious desert insects. A quiet reminder that even in the face of eternity, someone still had to clean up. You pass your fingers over a low stone shelf, the grains of sand caught in its cracks, rough against your skin. You wonder who carved it, whose hands once pressed these lines into being, and what they thought of the task. Did they believe in the magic of the afterlife? Or was it just another day's work, a paycheck in the shadow of eternity? There's a mural of a crocodile gliding through the Nile, its scales picked out in shimmering green. You remember from the guidebooks that crocodile fat was once used in ancient sun protection. Crocodile poop mixed with other ingredients, a sunscreen fit for a pharaoh or a farmer. It's a fact that makes you smile in the dusty darkness, because no matter how grand the afterlife, there was always a touch of the absurd in mortal life. You rest your hand on the painted scales, feeling the smoothness beneath your fingers, and wonder at the odd duality of it. Death and life, protection and destruction all tangled up in one creature's image. You think of those ancient Egyptians, so pragmatic, and yet so awed by the power of nature, and you can't help but feel a bit of that wonder even now. A small crack in the wall lets in a sliver of night air, cool and sweet. You pause, breathing deeply, and let your mind drift. Outside, the world carries on. Frogs croak in the reeds, the Nile laps gently at its banks, and the stars wheel slowly overhead. Inside, the dead wait wrapped in layers of linen and resin, gemeischend, as the sand that covers their tombs. You close your eyes for a moment and let the weight of it settle around you, the centuries pressing close like a warm blanket. This was their journey, this careful transformation, this last chance at eternity. And for a moment you feel the quiet comfort of it, the sense that even in the darkest places, there is still a kind of peace. You open your eyes, the flickering light of your lantern, catching the gold-leafed edge of a funerary mask, and you smile. Because in this silent chamber, you're not just an intruder, you're a witness to the dreams of the ancient dead. And somehow that feels like enough. You shuffle out of the mummification chamber, your shoulders brushing the cool stone as the passageway opens up again, revealing a corridor lined with small, shallow niches. The flickering light of your lantern dances along the walls, illuminating scenes of daily life. Fishermen casting nets, bakers tending to fragrant loaves, children playing with ivory toys. It's comforting somehow to know that in preparing for the afterlife, the ancient Egyptians thought it best to pack up a bit of the everyday. You stop before a small painted figure of a woman grinding grain, her arms caught in mid-motion, the colors still bright despite the centuries. It's a simple scene, and you can't help but think about how even in death, they wanted the comfort of familiar chores. It's a little like packing your lunch for a long road trip, just in case the cosmic drive-thru isn't open. The air smells faintly of beeswax and desert wind, a gentle contrast to the tang of resin you left behind. You step closer to a small inscription near the bottom of the wall, a prayer for safe passage. The words neat, and even as if the scribe was determined to get every mark just right. Your fingers itch to trace the lines, to feel that steady hand echo across the centuries. And then, tucked into a corner of the chamber, you see something that makes you pause, a small jar with a rather unexpected ingredient list: crocodile dung honey and a few herbs. You tilt your head, a sleepy grin tugging at your lips as you recall that odd historical tidbit. This was their sunscreen. The mixture might have kept the sun's bite at bay, but it's also a reminder that even the most elegant civilization had to deal with sunburn. You can almost picture a young scribe slathering the stuff on, grumbling about how it smelled worse than death itself. You lean closer to a small doorway at the far end, the lintel carved with the names of the gods in looping, elegant hieroglyphs. Your lantern's glow reveals a small wooden statue of Thoth, the ibis-headed god of writing and wisdom. His painted eyes seem to meet yours in the shifting light, and you can almost hear him muttering, "Maybe next time, skip the crocodile poop and try shade." A low doorway opens up to reveal the Hall of Ma'at, a place of cosmic balance, where each soul was weighed against the feather of truth. You step inside, feeling a faint tremor in your chest, as if your own heart is already starting to beat a little faster. The chamber is dominated by a single scene, the weighing of the heart ceremony. Anubis stands to one side, his jackal face serene and watchful, while Thoth records every detail with practiced patience. The scales themselves seem impossibly delicate, golden arms balanced by the simple white feather that decides your eternal fate. You stand there, imagining your own heart placed on those scales, the weight of your every word and deed measured by gods who didn't miss a thing. Historians still debate whether this was meant as a literal moment of judgment or a symbolic purification. Either way, it's a little nerve-wracking to think of your heart as a cosmic report card. A soft laugh escapes you, your breath fogging in the cool air. Well, you murmur, I guess I'd better hope the feather's having a good day. You move closer, studying the painted figures around the scales. The deceased stands in white linen hands, raised in supplication, the curve of the lips just shy of a smile, like they're trying to look innocent, even in the afterlife. The scene is frozen, yet alive with the tension of the moment, and you can almost feel the hush that would have filled this chamber when the ritual was performed. A small breeze stirs the air, carrying with it the scent of dust and something sweet. Maybe old lotus petals, long turned to powder. You tilt your head back, feeling the ancient weight of the ceiling overhead. And for a moment, you wonder what it would be like to stand here in the darkness, your heart in one pan, and the feather of Mayat in the other. Your gaze drops to the floor, where the faint outline of a doorway is carved into the stone. It's a symbolic passage, a reminder that if your heart was found wanting, the next stop was Amit's jaws, part crocodile, part lion, part hippo, a creature that wouldn't hesitate to munch on your soul like a midnight snack. You shiver, though not entirely from the chill in the air. There's something delightfully unnerving about knowing that even in death, there were consequences. You pause, letting the weight of that idea settle in your bones. Your breath slows the quiet of the tomb, wrapping around you like a soft, dusty blanket. There's no hurry here, no rush to the next scene, just the patient promise of eternity, waiting to see if you measure up. A thin crack in the ceiling lets in a pale shaft of moonlight, and for a moment it touches the scales, directly the feather glowing faintly in the soft light. You smile at the drama of it all, like the gods themselves decided to stage manage your evening just for effect. You turn back to the doorway, your lantern held high, and offer a silent thanks to the feather the scales, and even to Amit, who's probably out there somewhere still waiting for a midnight snack. You can't help but feel a small thrill, a flicker of excitement, that even after all these centuries, these stories still breathe in the darkness. And with that, you step back into the corridor, the weighing chamber fading behind you as you shuffle forward, your breath steady, your mind half lulled by the rhythm of the ancient stones beneath your feet. You continue along the low corridor, the air cool and faintly perfumed with old incense. Your feet slide over the sandy floor, each step. A soft shuffle that seems to echo off the stone walls like a quiet heartbeat. You're deeper now, the hush of the tomb pressing close as you follow the gentle glow of your lantern. The walls are closer here, the carvings growing denser like a library of prayers whispered into eternity. Ahead, a small antechamber opens up its walls, alive with images of the afterlife's promise. You see scenes of fertile fields and shimmering water of souls, rowing small boats through lush marshes, an endless harvest where the sun never sets, and every ear of barley is golden and ripe. This is the field of reeds, the Egyptian paradise, where the blessed dead would spend eternity. You pause, the breath catching in your throat at the thought of such a perfect eternal summer. Your sandals brush against the threshold, the faint crunch of sand underfoot, grounding you even as your mind drifts to this imagined Eden. You step inside the paintings, vivid with blues and greens, each figure caught in the act of harvest or rest. A farmer bends to gather sheaves of wheat, his muscles taut and strong, a smile playing at the corner of his lips. Nearby, a woman stoops to pluck lotus flowers from a placid lake, her hair caught in a breeze that no longer stirs this silent world. You reach out your fingertips, brushing the cool surface of the wall, and you swear you can almost feel the rustle of the reeds, the soft give of damp earth beneath your toes. It's an odd comfort, this promise of eternal work and gentle rest, a kind of cosmic retirement plan that doesn't sound half bad. But even here in the promise of eternal peace, there's a small nervous flutter in your chest. Because you remember the weighing of the heart, remember that this perfect summer was never guaranteed. Only the worthy would reach these fields, their hearts light as the feather of Me'at. Historians still debate whether the field of reeds was meant to be a literal place or a symbolic landscape of the soul. Was it a real afterlife, or just a comforting dream? Either way, you can't help but feel the gentle ache of longing in your chest, the sleepy part of your mind that wouldn't mind trading a few mortal worries for a patch of green and the quiet lull of the Nile. You move along the painted wall. The scene's shifting with each step. Farmers become fishermen, pulling nets heavy with gleaming fish. Each catch a small miracle in the painted waters. You pause at a small figure of a boy with a clay pot balanced on his head, his face lit with laughter as he steps carefully through the reeds. It's a reminder that even in this eternal summer, there would be small joys, moments of play, caught in the golden hush of the afterlife. Your lantern's light flickers across a small niche in the wall, revealing a clay offering bowl, still filled with the cracked remains of ancient barley. You lean in, breathing in the faint, dusty scent of grain, and wonder how it must have felt to stand here with your hands full of offerings, your heart full of hope. A small breeze moves through the antechamber, and for a moment you almost believe it's the breath of the Nile itself, stirring the painted waters to life. You close your eyes, letting the imagined sound of frogs and crickets wash over you, and you smile. There's something so peaceful about the idea, an afterlife not of endless judgment, but of gentle work and endless plenty. A little laugh bubbles up from your throat, soft and surprised, as you picture yourself trying to learn to farm in the afterlife. Probably getting sunburned in record time, forgetting your hat, and muttering that old modern mantra, should have packed sunscreen, even if it's crocodile poop. You let your fingers drift along the cool stone, each carved line, a small echo of the world that once was. You're not in a rush here. Time itself seems to slow in these painted fields, each breath deep and steady, each heartbeat a quiet promise that you're part of something older and gentler than the clamor of the world outside. A faint scratching noise catches your attention, and you tilt your head, sleepy curiosity brightening your eyes. It's only a small scarab beetle, its dark carapace gleaming as it scuttles across the floor, a tiny echo of the protective amulets buried with the dead. You watch it go, a small, determined traveler in the darkness, and you think maybe the Egyptians were onto something after all. There's a kind of quiet magic in every small life, no matter how humble. You step back, the images of the field of reeds flickering around you in the soft light, and you feel the weight of it settle in your chest. This was their dream, their hope, a world of green fields and gentle rivers where every soul had a place to rest. And with that thought, you shuffle forward once more, the hush of the afterlife folding around you like a soft blanket. Your breath slow and even, the field of reeds stretching out in your mind, like a promise you almost believe. You shuffle along the corridor, the warm hush of the field of reeds still lingering in your mind as you turn a corner and find yourself in a chamber darker than the others, the air thick with the smell of old incense and flickering lamp oil. Your lantern's glow catches the edge of a painted column, a figure in green and black seated on a throne of eternal shadow. You know him at once, though you've never met Osiris, lord of the underworld. His face is calm, almost gentle, but there's no mistaking the weight in his gaze, the silent power that seeps from the painted walls. He sits wrapped in linen, a crook and flail across his chest, symbols of kingship even in death. You pause, the air around you so still you can almost hear your own heartbeat, a soft thump, thump that sounds absurdly loud in this quiet world. You shift your lantern, the light catching the curve of his regal crown, the white crown of Upper Egypt that once glimmered under desert suns. Osiris doesn't move. Of course, he's a painting, a statue, a god who has watched the passage of centuries without blinking. But in the shifting glow of the lantern, you swear his painted eyes flicker with the faintest trace of curiosity, as if he's wondering what you're doing in his silent hall. You clear your throat softly, offering a sleepy chuckle to break the tension. "Hello, Osiris," you murmur, your voice soft and unsure. "Just passing through promise. I'll leave everything where I found it." The walls around him are alive with scenes of judgment and rebirth, fields of barley rivers winding through the desert, each image a promise that death is just another chapter. You wonder what it would be like to stand here, your soul stripped of every mask and whisper, and face the final verdict of the Lord of the Underworld. Historians still debate whether Osiris was a purely funerary figure, or if he held deeper, more personal meaning to each soul who stood before him. You guess it's both, because even gods can be comforting and terrifying all at once. A thin crack in the wall lets in a thread of moonlight, pale and cold, against the warm glow of your lantern. You watch as it slides across Osiris's painted cheek, a silver tear that vanishes as quickly as it appears. You take a breath, steadying yourself against the weight of the moment, and let your eyes drift to the offerings left before the throne. Small statues of Shabti figures, their arms crossed in eternal service, stand ready at his feet. Clay bowls hold the crumbling remains of bread and dried figs, the scent of ancient feasts still clinging to the air. You kneel just for a moment, your fingers brushing the smooth edge of a bowl, and you think of all the souls who knelt here before you, whispering prayers into the darkness. A small sound breaks the silence, your own stomach grumbling in the cool air. You offer Osiris an embarrassed smile, whispering, "Or I didn't pack a snack for this trip." It's a small joke, but it eases the tightness in your chest, the way a whisper of laughter can lighten even the heaviest shadow. You step back, your lantern's light catching the faint outlines of other gods painted along the walls. Isis, regal and serene, her wings outstretched in a silent promise of protection. Nephthys, her gaze gentle as she stands watch over the realm of the dead, and in the shadows between them, smaller figures. Gods of the harvest of music, of every small joy the Egyptians hoped to carry into eternity. You pause, letting your breath slow, feeling the hush of the tomb settle into your bones. The air smells of old stone and sweet resin, and you can almost believe you're standing at the edge of the afterlife itself, the line between this world and the next, as thin as the linen that wraps the dead. Your eyes drift back to Osiris, his silent throne, as eternal as the stars, wheeling above the desert. You wonder if he would have smiled at a joke, if he would have paused to admire a lotus flower or taste a fig still warm from the sun. It's a thought that lingers in the soft dark, because even gods you think might have found comfort in the small sweetness of the world. A faint tremor in the stone beneath your feet reminds you of the weight of the centuries pressing down the quiet power of a civilization that believed so deeply in the promise of forever. And for a moment you feel that same quiet hope stirring in your chest, a sleepy kind of faith that maybe, just maybe, there is something waiting beyond the last breath. You step back, offering Osiris a small bow of thanks. Your lantern's glow catching the faintest smile in the painted curve of his lips. Or maybe it's just the flicker of the flame, and your tired mind weaving its own gentle story. Either way, you turn away the weight of judgment and the promise of eternity tucked softly into your heart as you shuffle forward deeper into the secrets of the ancient dead. You shuffle forward your steps, quiet in the dim corridor that stretches away from Osiris's silent gaze. The air grows cooler still, the weight of centuries pressing close as you turn a corner and find yourself in a small chamber, its walls alive with painted scenes of jars and careful rituals. The canopic jars, those silent sentinels of the afterlife. Your lantern's glow picks out the details one by one. 4 jars stand painted along the wall, each topped with the head of a protective god. Mseti with a human face guarding the liver. Hapi, the baboon-headed keeper of the lungs. Duamutef, his jackal head, watching over the stomach. And Kebeh-Senuef, the falcon-headed protector of the intestines. You murmur their names softly, your voice a hush that seems to echo back at you like a sleepy mantra. You lean in closer, your breath stirring the dust that clings to the painted surfaces, and you wonder about the symbolism of these jars. Historians still debate whether the jars were purely functional or held deeper spiritual meaning. Were they just a practical way to store the messy bits of life, or did they offer the soul an anchor, a promise that nothing truly important would ever be lost? A soft chuckle escapes you as you think of the modern equivalent. Some college kid's dusty jar of leftover takeout labeled important, but never quite eaten. Maybe we're not so different from the ancient Egyptians after all. You trace your fingers along the painted lines, feeling the groove of each careful mark. There's something soothing in the repetition, the steady rhythm of shapes that speak of life and death, of the thin line between memory and oblivion. You imagine the priests at work, their voices low, and measured each jar, sealed with a prayer and a flicker of hope. A small shelf in the corner holds a real canopic jar, its limestone surface cool and slightly rough beneath your fingertips. You pause the lantern's glow, catching the faint glint of what might be old resin at the rim. The jar's lid is shaped like the head of a falcon, Kebeh-Senuef's domain, And for a moment, you find yourself murmuring a quiet greeting to the protective god. A sleepy thank you for watching over the forgotten fragments of the dead. You kneel your knees, brushing the cool stone, and let your eyes wander across the small figures painted in procession around the jar. Each carries an offering: a loaf of bread, a small jug of beer, a lotus flower that never wilts. There's a comfort in their silent devotion, a promise that even in the darkness, there are hands ready to serve, voices ready to sing. The air smells faintly of old herbs and beeswax, the scent a soft blanket that wraps around you as you rest your hand against the cool stone. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the quiet fill you, and you think of all the hearts that beat here once, of all the souls who trusted these jars to keep them whole in the afterlife. A faint crack in the ceiling lets in a thin shaft of moonlight, and it slides across the painted jars like a soft breath. You watch the light flicker your eyes, half-lidded with the weight of sleep and the hush of centuries. In that moment, you swear you can almost hear the priests' voices chanting their ancient songs, each note a thread that ties the living to the dead. You open your eyes and offer the jars a small, sleepy smile. "You're doing good work," you murmur softly. "I hope someone's singing for you too." A small, curious fact drifts up in your mind, a memory of something you read once. Some Egyptian texts mention that crocodile fat was mixed with herbs to protect the skin, a detail that never fails to make you grin. You can't help but imagine some poor embalmer slathering it on while whispering apologies to the crocodiles. You rise slowly, the stiffness in your knees. A gentle reminder that even in a world of painted eternity, your body still belongs to the here and now. The jars watch you with their silent guardian's gaze, and you offer them a final nod before stepping back into the corridor. Your lantern's glow flickers, the shadows shifting and dancing around you as you move away, the quiet promise of the canopic jars tucked softly into your chest. You can almost feel their silent prayers following you, a sleepy reassurance that no matter how far you wander, there are always guardians to watch over the small, fragile pieces of your soul. And with that, you shuffle onward, the hush of the tomb folding around you like a soft dream, the promise of ancient jars and old songs weaving a lullaby that lingers long after you're gone. You shuffle forward, the hush of the canopic jars fading behind you as you enter another low corridor, the air shifting to something cooler, laced with a faint scent of reeds and damp earth. Your lantern's glow wavers the shadows pressing closer, and you pause to steady your breath. In the flickering light, the walls come alive with scenes of endless fields, where souls wander in the afterlife's gentle hush. You're in the realm of the field of reeds again, only this time, it's not a painted promise. It's a twisting maze of real and painted corridors that blend together until you can't quite tell what's memory and what's dream. You feel the hush in your chest, a soft thrum that matches the gentle sway of the reeds you see in the carved panels around you. You pause at one of the carvings, a man poling a small boat through the marshes, his face serene as he drifts past papyrus and lotus. The water's surface is carved in delicate lines that catch the lantern's glow, and for a moment, you almost believe you can hear the soft slap of water against the boat's hull. You take a slow breath, your shoulders relaxing as you let the scene wash over you. The ancient Egyptians believed this was the promise of eternity, an endless harvest, a gentle world of river and sky. You wonder if they dreamed of the warm sun on their skin, the soft brush of reeds against their ankles, the sweet, heavy scent of lotus in bloom. A small, odd detail makes you pause a painted figure of a woman, her hair neatly braided, holding a small jar of what looks suspiciously like beer. Historians have argued for years whether beer was an offering or a luxury, and you can't help but chuckle as you imagine some ancient scribe grumbling about the afterlife's eternal happy hour. Do you want wine? No beer's fine, forever beer. You move deeper into the maze, the air cool and close around you, your breath a soft rhythm that echoes off the stone. The paintings grow more vivid here, as if the artists themselves wanted to make sure you wouldn't forget the promise of this gentle paradise. You see women with baskets of figs, men with nets heavy with fish, all of them caught in the hush of a perfect summer that never ends. The floor beneath your sandals is worn smooth, the faint scent of old water and dried reeds clinging to the air. You let your fingertips drift along the wall, tracing the sinuous lines of the river that winds through these painted fields. It's a quiet comfort. This idea that the afterlife isn't all solemn judgment and stern gods, but also the soft hush of water and the simple joys of a morning's harvest. You pass a small niche in the wall, a carved figure of Hapi the Nile god, smiling faintly as he cradles a bundle of reeds. The offering bowls at his feet still hold the faint, dusty traces of grain, and you pause to brush a bit of the ancient dust from the rim. A small, sleepy smile tugs at your lips. Even in the afterlife, it seems someone was always ready to feed the river. A faint breeze rustles the air, and you swear. For a moment, you hear the soft murmur of the Nile itself, the voice of the river that gave life to this kingdom of stone and sand. You close your eyes, letting the imagined sound soothe you, and you feel the hush of the field of reeds settle around you like a soft lullaby. The corridor turns again, the maze unfolding like a dream, and you follow it without hurry, each step a slow shuffle that keeps the rhythm of your breath steady and calm. You find yourself in a small chamber, the walls painted with scenes of feasts, loaves of bread piled high, fish still gleaming from the river jars of beer and wine that promise a feast for the soul. You smile at the scene, a gentle warmth in your chest. Historians still debate whether these scenes were meant as a literal map to the afterlife, or just a hopeful dream, a wish that death could be as gentle as a summer's picnic. You decide it doesn't really matter. In this hush, in this slow shuffle through the painted reeds, it all feels real enough. A small figure catches your eye, a painted cat, its tail curling around a basket of fish. You pause, a sleepy laugh bubbling up, as you remember another odd fact. Cats were not just pets, but sacred guardians believed to protect the soul from evil spirits. You murmur a soft greeting to the painted cat, grateful for any extra protection in this world of shifting shadows. You linger there, the hush of the field of reeds, a soft song that seems to settle into your bones, the promise of gentle work and endless feasts wrapping around you like a warm blanket. And as you take another slow breath, you shuffle forward once more, the painted river winding ahead, the afterlife's quiet promise guiding your sleepy steps. You shuffle along, your lantern's glow dancing across the worn stones as you leave behind the hushed banquets and shimmering fields of the afterlife. The air feels thicker here, the weight of ages pressing a little closer. But there's a flicker of reassurance in your chest, a sleepy trust that you're not alone in these shadowy corridors. Ahead, a small side chamber opens up its walls, alive with protective spells and prayers, an endless litany of safe passages and soft blessings. You pause in the doorway, your breath stirring the dust as you spot a small gleaming shape in a shallow niche. A scarab amulet carved from deep green stone, its back polished smooth by centuries of gentle hands. You step closer, your lantern's light catching the curve of the scarab's shell, the faint lines of its tiny legs etched with such care it almost seems ready to scuttle away. You reach out fingers hovering above the cool stone and murmur a soft greeting. "Hello, little guardian." The scarab was more than just an amulet to the ancient Egyptians. It was a symbol of rebirth and protection, a promise that the soul could find its way even in the deepest dark. They placed these amulets over the heart of the mummy, a final charm against the dangers of the duat, the perilous underworld where every soul had to travel. You let your fingers rest gently on the amulet, feeling the cold weight of it, the memory of hands that once pressed it to a loved one's chest. It's a small comfort, this piece of eternity you can still touch. And you smile at the thought of some long-dead scribe carefully inscribing protective spells to keep your heart safe. A small laugh slips out, soft and surprised, as you imagine explaining this to a friend. "Oh yeah, I'm wearing my lucky bug today. Keeps my soul in one piece." There's a warmth in the thought, a gentle absurdity that somehow makes this ancient magic feel more real. You pause to trace the hieroglyphs around the niche, the protective spells carefully painted in neat looping lines. Historians still debate whether these spells were considered literal commands to the gods or just a hopeful reassurance, like tucking a lucky coin into your pocket before a big exam. Either way, you can feel the quiet weight of belief in every line, a sleepy sort of trust that the world would take care of you even after your last breath. The air smells faintly of beeswax and old resin, and you let it fill your lungs, a grounding warmth that keeps the shadows at bay. You lean closer to the scarab, your breath soft and even, and whisper a quiet promise. "I'll keep you in my heart too." You turn away, your footsteps soft on the worn stones, and feel a small thrill of reassurance in your chest. Maybe it's just the charm of the amulet, or maybe it's the hush of the tomb itself, but you feel safer, like the scarab is watching over you even as you shuffle deeper into the darkness. The corridor ahead curves gently, the walls alive with more protective scenes, gods. With outstretched hands, priests in mid-prayer, small offerings of bread and beer painted like soft promises. You pause to admire a painted falcon, its eyes bright and watchful, and you offer it a small nod of thanks. After all, every bit of protection counts in a world where your soul might just wander a little too far. A thin crack in the wall lets in a shaft of moonlight, and for a moment, it glints off the scarab's back. The soft green glow of it. A promise that even here in the hush of ancient stone, there is still life. Still hope. You smile, the weight of your steps a little lighter. The hush of the afterlife, a little less daunting. A final odd fact drifts up from the back of your mind. Some Egyptians believed scarabs were born from dung-tiny miracles of life in the midst of decay. You chuckle softly, shaking your head. So basically, even the smallest thing can be a spark of magic. It's a comforting thought, the kind that settles in your chest like a warm cup of tea. You let your breath out in a slow sigh. The lanterns glow, painting soft gold across the walls, and you step forward once more. The scarab's quiet promise tucked in your heart, your footsteps steady as you continue your journey through the secrets of the ancient dead. You shuffle forward the soft glow of your lantern, revealing a narrow archway ahead, the stone cool and faintly slick beneath your fingertips as you pass beneath it. Beyond, the corridor opens into a wide, low-ceilinged room where the scent of old incense lingers like a memory. Here, the air is heavy with stories of feasts that never end, of tables laden with bread and beer, of songs shared between the living and the dead. You pause, letting your breath slow your mind, easing into the sleepy hush that seems to seep from the very stones. The walls are painted with scenes of banquets, long tables filled with food, cups of wine, and beer held aloft in silent toasts. The figures are alive with color and motion, though they've been trapped in these scenes for millennia, forever caught mid-laugh or mid-bite. You smile at the thought. The ancient Egyptians believed that the soul needed these feasts to thrive in the afterlife, a comfort for the spirit, a promise that death wasn't an end to the small joys of life. Historians still debate whether these painted scenes were meant to magically provide actual sustenance or just to soothe the soul. But you decide, it doesn't really matter. In the warm hush of this chamber, you can almost hear the laughter, the gentle clink of cups raised in endless cheer. A long table stretches across the room, the painted platters laden with fish and fowl fruits piled high in baskets that never spoil. You move closer, your fingers brushing the cool stone, and you can almost taste the sweet bite of dates, the warm, rich scent of bread fresh from the oven. There's a sleepy comfort in the thought. No more worries, no more hunger, just an endless evening of laughter and gentle conversation. You pause by a painted jug of beer, its frothy top frozen in time, and a small chuckle escapes your lips. You remember reading once that beer was as essential to daily life in ancient Egypt as water itself, so of course it would be part of the afterlife too. You imagine some poor soul sneaking a second cup, murmuring, "Don't judge me, Osiris. It's been a long eternity." A small niche in the wall holds a real offering bowl, its surface cracked, but still proud. The faint trace of ancient breadcrumbs clinging to the bottom. You kneel for a moment, your breath stirring the dust, and you think of the priests who would have filled these bowls their prayers, low and soft, as they hoped to feed the soul of the departed. You whisper a sleepy blessing to the empty bowl, a promise that someone still remembers. In the shadows beyond the table, small statues of servants stand frozen in eternal service. Their faces are calm, patient, and there's a quiet dignity in their stillness, a promise that even in death, no soul would ever want for company or comfort. You offer them a small smile, a gentle thanks for their silent watch, and you feel a soft warmth bloom in your chest. A curious fact drifts up from the back of your mind. Some Egyptians believed that the souls of the dead could join these banquets, slipping back into the world of the living for a single night to drink and dance with old friends. You can almost hear the soft rustle of linen, the quiet clink of cups in the darkness, and you find yourself murmuring, "Save a seat for me." You move to the center of the room, the painted laughter and feasts wrapping around you like a soft lullaby. The hush of the tomb settles deeper in your bones, your breath slow and easy, and for a moment you feel as if you're part of the gathering, just another soul at the eternal table. Your worries left behind at the threshold. The air smells faintly of honey and old smoke, a sweet echo of all the feasts that were ever laid here. You let the scent fill your lungs, a soft anchor in the darkness, and you wonder if this was the final comfort the priests hoped to give, a promise that no soul would ever go hungry in the afterlife. A painted cat curls at the foot of the table, its green eyes bright and mischievous. You pause, a sleepy laugh slipping out as you remember the cat's sacred place in Egyptian life, both as protector and companion. "Keeping the mice away, huh?" you whisper, and the cat's painted gaze seems to glint in answer. You take one last look around the soft promise of the feast, settling into your chest like a warm blanket. There's no rush here, no hurry in the afterlife's gentle banquet. Just the quiet hush of bread and beer, laughter, and song, a comfort that lingers even as you shuffle onward into the dark. You shuffle past the final feast, your sandals whispering along the dusty floor as the corridor curves once more. The air shifts cooler now, with a faint scent of old paper and ink. Ahead, the walls open up into a small square chamber, the ceiling low and heavy with age. Here, the light of your lantern flickers across, walls alive with hieroglyphs, the pyramid texts, soft whispers of power and protection etched in stone. You pause, the hush of the chamber settling into your bones like a gentle sigh. These texts are some of the oldest religious writings in the world, inscribed here, to guide the pharaoh's soul through the afterlife's dark rivers and sunlit fields. Each line a prayer, each symbol a promise. You tilt your head to the hieroglyphs dancing in the flickering light, and you wonder what they would sound like if spoken aloud. If the echoes of ancient voices would fill the air, soft and low, like the hum of a lullaby. You move closer, tracing your fingers over the neat rows of symbols, the slight indent of each line cool beneath your fingertips. You remember reading that some scholars believe these texts were meant to be read aloud by priests during the pharaoh's burial, a final performance to seal the soul's safe passage. Others think they were meant only for the dead themselves, secret spells whispered by the living to the silent listener beyond the veil. Historians still debate the exact purpose, and you find comfort in that uncertainty, a reminder that even the oldest stories are still open to interpretation. You let your breath out in a slow sigh, the hush of the chamber deepening around you. The air smells faintly of old resin and the faint mineral tang of stone, a scent that grounds you in the moment. You close your eyes for a heartbeat, letting the weight of the hieroglyphs press softly against your mind like a lullaby of stone. A small joke drifts through your thoughts, soft and unexpected. Imagine using these as your bedtime reading. You murmur, your voice barely more than a breath. A few thousand years old, but I bet it still works better than counting sheep. You let your fingers drift over a single column of text, the figures of falcons and lotuses, and the looping swirl of the sun god's name. There's a beauty in it, a kind of quiet poetry that hums through your bones. You wonder how many hands carved these symbols, how many voices read them by lamplight. Their words a soft promise to the dead. You move to a small alcove in the wall, where a fragment of the text is picked out in gold leaf, the symbols gleaming even in the soft glow of your lantern. The gold catches the light like a soft breath, and you smile sleepy and content at the thought of pharaohs who wanted their final prayers to shine brighter than the stars. A small crack in the ceiling lets in a sliver of moonlight, the pale glow sliding across the text like a blessing. You pause, letting the light and shadow play across your face, and you find a quiet comfort in the hush of it all. Here, in this chamber of whispers and prayers, there's no hurry, no sharp edges, just the soft murmur of stone and the endless patience of time. You lean back against the cool wall, your breath steady, your mind drifting like a boat on the Nile. The words around you seem to hum with their own rhythm, a gentle promise that even the darkest journey can be guided by a quiet voice and a careful prayer. A final odd fact flickers through your thoughts. Some pharaohs were buried with small models of boats to carry them through the afterlife's rivers, tiny wooden ships that promised safe passage on waters that were both real and imagined. You smile at the thought, picturing a miniature fleet sailing through these painted walls, each hull a lullaby of protection. You take one last look around the chamber, the pyramid texts alive in the shifting glow of your lantern. There's a peace here, a soft weight that settles in your chest and smooths the edges of the world. And as you step back into the corridor, your steps slow. And sure, you carry that peace with you like a soft song that follows you through the shadows, guiding you deeper into the secrets of the ancient dead. You shuffle away from the chamber of the pyramid texts, the echo of ancient prayers still humming in your ears as you follow the soft glow of your lantern. The corridor grows narrower, the hush deeper, and the air smells faintly of dried reeds and the faintest whisper of old papyrus. Ahead, a low arch opens up into a small room, its walls alive with painted spells and delicate figures the Book of the Dead. You pause at the threshold, your breath soft and even, and let the quiet weight of the place settle over you. Here, in the flickering light, you can almost feel the prayers woven into the walls, spells for safe passage, for protection, for the long journey through the duat. Each symbol, a gentle promise. Each painted figure, a companion for the soul. You step closer, your lantern catching the rich colors of the scenes Osiris seated in. Judgment, the heart weighed against the feather of Maat, and the soul's careful journey through the afterlife's many dangers. You trace the looping lines of the hieroglyphs with your eyes, your breath slowing to match the patient rhythm of the ancient text. The Book of the Dead wasn't really a single book you remember, but a collection of spells and incantations that could be chosen and combined to fit the needs of the soul. Historians still debate whether these texts were meant as a literal guide or a more symbolic comfort, a map for the living to hold close as they prepared to step into the endless night. You lean closer, your fingers hovering above a small painted figure of a soul crossing the river on a tiny reed boat. The water is painted in soft blue curves, and for a moment you can almost hear the gentle lap of the Nile, the quiet promise of safe passage that carried the dead to their final rest. A small smile tugs at your lips. It's like the world's oldest travel guide. You murmur your voice soft in the hush of the tomb. Just with more crocodiles and fewer hotel recommendations, you move along the wall, the scenes unfolding like a slow dream. You see protective amulets offered to the soul, the soft curl of a lotus held in a gentle hand. A figure of Anubis stands in a doorway, his jackal's gaze watchful and calm, a silent guardian at the threshold of eternity. You offer him a small nod, a quiet thank you for watching over this endless journey. The air smells of old resin and faintly sweet oils, the scent a soft comfort in the darkness. You pause at a scene of the soul's final trial. A demon with the head of a crocodile and the body of a lion waits in the shadows and is gaping wide. The soul stands before it, small and brave, a single protective spell held like a torch in the dark. You let your fingers rest on the cool stone, the painted lines smooth beneath your touch, and you wonder at the quiet courage of those who believed so deeply in the power of words. A final odd fact drifts up in your mind. Some texts mention that the spells could be written on linen and wrapped around the mummy like a second skin, a final armor against the darkness. You smile at the thought, picturing some ancient soul wrapped in words, their dreams of the afterlife woven into every line. A thin crack in the ceiling lets in a soft breath of night air, the coolness brushing your skin like a whispered blessing. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the hush of the tomb settle deeper, the gentle weight of the painted prayers, a lullaby that eases the last sharp edges of wakefulness. You take one last look around the chamber, the painted scenes alive in the shifting light, and you find a quiet peace in the careful promise of the Book of the Dead. There's no rush here, no hurry in this slow shuffle through ancient shadows, just the patient promise that every soul, no matter how small, could find its way to the field of reeds. And with that, you shuffle forward once more, your breath steady, your mind soft with sleepiness. The quiet power of painted prayers, your gentle guide as you continue your journey deeper into the secrets of the ancient dead. You shuffle onward, your breath slow, and even the Book of the Dead's painted prayers still lingering in your mind like a half-remembered song. The corridor narrows the air, cool and thick with the scent of stone and old incense. Your lantern's glow flickers across the worn walls, the flickering light catching glimpses of guardians who stand silent watch over the thresholds of the afterlife. You step through another archway and pause, the hush of the tomb settling around you like a soft cloak. Here, in this small, shadowy chamber, the walls are alive with figures both fearsome and kind guardian demons, and helpful deities, each ready to guide or challenge the soul on its journey. A tall figure looms ahead, painted in deep reds and blues. His head, a snarling lion, his claws ready to rend the soul of any who would dare to pass unworthy. You step closer, your breath caught in your throat, and read the faint lines of a spell painted beside him, a charm meant to turn away his fury, to soothe his hunger with whispered words of power. You let your fingers drift along the line of his mane, the stone cool and reassuring beneath your touch. Historians still debate whether these guardian demons were meant as literal threats or as symbols of the soul's own fears, the darkness that could only be tamed with gentle courage. Either way, you find a certain comfort in their watchful gaze, like a stern parent standing guard at the edge of a nightmare. A sleepy chuckle slips out of you. Well, you'd make a terrible babysitter, but I guess you do the job. You whisper the words like a half-dreamed thought, and for a moment the fierce demon seems to soften in the flickering light, less a threat, more a reminder that even fear has its place in the dance of life and death. You move along the wall, the painted figure shifting from ferocity to kindness. A small, delicate figure of Hathor, the goddess of music and joy, her cow's ears peeking from beneath a golden headdress. She holds a sistrum, the ancient rattle of celebration, and for a moment you swear you hear the soft jingle of bronze and the gentle lilt of laughter. You pause, offering Hathor a small, sleepy smile. Thanks for the music, you murmur the hush of the tomb, wrapping your words in a gentle echo. Even in the darkest places, a soft song can carry the soul forward. A narrow doorway as the wall reveals a small niche where a statue of Bes, the dwarf god of protection, stands squat and cheerful, his tongue stuck out in eternal mischief. You can't help but smile, a soft laugh bubbling up at the sight of his round belly and wild hair. A protector of mothers and children, he's here too, watching over the soul's journey with a fierce, playful devotion. You rest your fingers on the small statue, feeling the warmth of your own skin against the cool stone. "Keep an eye out for me," you whisper, and in that moment you feel a little less alone in the hush of the tomb. The air smells of old resin and faintly of dried flowers, a soft, sweet scent that carries the memory of 100 small offerings left in the shadows. You pause by a painted scene of a soul offering lotus flowers to a small, watchful cat, another guardian, another gentle protector in the world beyond. You chuckle softly, remembering how cats were sacred in Egypt, guardians of the home and the soul alike. A small, odd fact drifts up in your mind. Some texts mention that demons of the underworld could be bribed with bread and beer, simple gifts to turn away their fury. You murmur a sleepy thanks to the old bakers and brewers who kept even the fiercest spirits happy. And you think maybe kindness really is the oldest magic of all. You stand for a moment, your breath slow and easy, the weight of the ancient stones pressing close, but not unkind. Here in this quiet hall of guardians, the fears of the soul and the gentle hands of the gods dance together in a hush of painted prayer and silent promise. You let out a slow sigh. The hush of the tomb. A soft lullaby that soothes the last sharp edges of wakefulness. And with that, you shuffle forward once more, the gentle watch of demons and deities wrapped around you like a soft blanket as you continue your journey deeper into the secrets of the ancient dead. You shuffle out of the chamber of guardians, the weight of those watchful eyes lingering in the hush around you. The corridor ahead seems to narrow, the walls pressing close, and your breath catches in your throat as you duck beneath a low lintel. Beyond, the air seems different, thicker, quieter, as if the darkness itself is holding its breath. You find yourself in a small, circular chamber, the walls painted with strange scenes of the soul's final trial. The soft glow of your lantern flickers across images of swirling darkness, of monstrous shapes half hidden in the shadows, each one waiting with bated breath for the soul to stumble. You pause, your fingers brushing the cool stone, and let your breath slow. This is the last challenge, the final test that every soul must face before it can reach the gentle hush of the field of reeds. Here in the hush of the painted dark, even the bravest heart might falter. You move closer, your eyes tracing the lines of a monstrous serpent coiled in the corner of the wall, its scales painted in flickering greens and blues. Historians still debate whether these creatures were literal monsters of the Duat or symbols of the soul's final fears. Either way, there's a sleepy sort of thrill in your chest at the thought of standing here at the edge of the soul's last dream. A small odd fact flickers in your mind, a note from some dusty text you once read, that the Egyptians believed the duat could be as treacherous as it was beautiful, a place of both endless night and endless light. You murmur a soft laugh, your voice barely more than a breath. Sounds like my last camping trip, dark, cold, and with something always watching. You pause before a painted figure of the soul itself, small and alone, facing the final trial, with nothing but a single spell whispered into the dark. You reach out your fingers, hovering just above the painted figure, and you find a quiet comfort in the gentle courage that lingers in the brushstrokes. There's a kind of strength in that small figure, a promise that even the smallest voice can carry the weight of hope. The air smells faintly of old resin and the bitter tang of desert dust, a scent that grounds you in the moment, even as your mind drifts through the painted trials. You close your eyes for a heartbeat, letting the hush of the chamber settle deeper in your bones, and you can almost hear the soft whisper of your own breath, steady, patient, a lullaby in the darkness. A thin crack in the ceiling lets in a single thread of moonlight, pale and cold, as it slides across the painted figures. You tilt your head, watching the light slip across the monstrous shapes, and for a moment, they seem to soften, less fearsome, more like old stories told around a fire. You step closer to a small niche in the wall, where a single protective amulet lies half hidden in the dust. You pick it up, the weight of it, a small comfort in your palm, and you smile, a sleepy warmth in your chest. It's a final promise, this amulet, a reminder that even in the darkest place, there is still light, still hope, still a gentle hand to guide you onward. You let out a slow sigh, your breath echoing softly in the still air, and you take one last look around the chamber. The painted trials shimmer in the flickering light, each line and shadow a soft promise that even the final darkness can be faced with a quiet courage. And with that, you shuffle forward once more, the hush of the final trial folding around you like a gentle dream. Your breath slow, your mind soft with sleepiness. You carry the weight of this final challenge with you, like a soft song whispered into the dark, a promise that even the deepest night can be walked through with a steady heart. You shuffle onward, the hush of the final trial still echoing in your bones, each step measured and soft against the cool stone. The corridor bends gently, the air growing lighter with every breath, and you feel a sleepy sort of relief blooming in your chest. The weight of judgment has passed, and ahead lies the promise of dawn. The stone walls open up into a small chamber, its ceiling cracked to reveal a thin sliver of the sky. The faint scent of the desert night drifts in a mix of cool sand and the faint sweetness of distant flowers. You pause, your breath slowing as you step out from the shadows and into the gentle glow of the world beyond. You're back at the edge of the tomb, the doorway behind you still heavy with the weight of centuries. But the air ahead is soft and warm, alive with the hush of dawn. The sky above is a gentle wash of pale pink and gold, the first light of morning touching the dunes with a soft hand. You take a slow breath, your shoulders easing, and you smile, a small, sleepy grin that seems to fit the moment. You pause, glancing back at the darkness you've left behind. In the flickering light of your lantern, the painted figures seem to watch you go, Osiris with his calm gaze, the soul's gentle guides, the fierce demons, who tested your spirit. You offer them a quiet nod, a silent promise that their stories will linger long after you've left this ancient hush. The air smells of sweet dust, and the faint tang of morning air, and you close your eyes for a moment, letting the soft weight of the desert settle around you like a blanket. You think of all the souls who walked these halls before you, each one a story, a quiet hope that death was not an end, but a doorway to something gentler. A small, odd fact flickers up in your mind. Some Egyptians believed that the dawn was the soul's rebirth, a promise that the sun would rise even for those who slept in the hush of eternity. You let out a soft laugh, your voice barely more than a breath. Well, you murmur, here's to a new sunrise wherever it leads. You step forward, your lantern flickering as you cross the threshold and leave the tomb behind. The first light of morning touches your skin, warm and soft as a whispered blessing, and you pause to let it wash over you. You feel the hush of the afterlife settle in your chest, a gentle weight that soothes the last sharp edges of wakefulness. You let your breath out in a slow sigh, the rhythm of it soft and steady, and you find a quiet peace in the promise of dawn. The field of reeds waits somewhere beyond the horizon, but for now, the hush of the desert morning is enough a soft promise that even in a world of shadows, there is always light waiting to be found. You shuffle onward, the sand cool and soft beneath your feet, the hush of the ancient dead fading behind you as the world brightens with each sleepy step. You carry the weight of these painted dreams with you, a soft echo of prayers and promises, a gentle song that hums in the quiet spaces of your mind. And as the sun rises higher, the dunes glow golden. In the gentle light, you find yourself smiling. Just a small, sleepy grin, the kind that belongs to those who have wandered through darkness and come out the other side. You offer one last nod to the tomb, to the painted gods, and quiet prayers, and you step forward into the gentle hush of a new day, the hush of the ancient dead, the promise of eternal feasts and gentle rivers. These are the whispers that guide you through the cool corridors of the tomb tonight. You walk the slow shuffle of the second person, your breath soft, and your mind half lulled by the weight of stone and the patient hush of prayers etched in paint and dust. You have wandered through chambers of feasts and trials, where painted gods judged the weight of your heart, and guardian demons stood watchful and stern. You've felt the weight of the canopic jars in your hand, the cold reassurance of the scarab amulet pressed to your chest. You've smiled at the odd bits of history. Crocodile poop sunscreen, beer-soaked banquets, and let the gentle rhythm of old incense and soft sand lull you deeper. Historians still debate the meaning of these rituals, the true weight of each spell and each painted promise. But in the hush of this journey, you've felt the quiet power of it all, the small, sleepy faith that even in death, there is a place for gentle laughter, for feasts that never end, and for stories that echo through the ages. And now in the hush of dawn, you step out of the tomb. The desert glows gold with the first light, the hush of ancient stones fading into the soft promise of a new day. You carry with you the gentle weight of these whispered secrets like a lullaby that hums beneath your breath, a promise that the journey is never really over, and that even in the darkness, there is always light waiting to be found.